So obviously August is going to start out strange because I'm not doing any content at the moment and I've got a lot of things going on. So I'm not trying to stress about any of that. But one of the things I'm missing because of it is my Magical Orilium TBR for the Autumn Equinox, which I still plan on participating in, but I'm not setting a TBR, and I definitely didn't put out a video for a TBR for that. So I was kind of thinking about how I wanted to handle this, and what I thought would be fun was to take each course as it came, because realistically, these Magical Orilium TBRs take me a while to get to anyways. I don't always get them finished before the next one happens. It just doesn't, as you've probably seen, it doesn't happen that way. So I was thinking starting out the beginning of August, using a wheel to generate the prompts for the classes that I need to take, and I would just go one book at a time. So I set it all up, I used my spinner wheel, and the very first course I got was restoration. And the class we're taking is object restoration. So obviously we need to focus on one single object at a time because, you know, we're trying to restore it. And so for this, the prompt is to pick a book that has one single object on the cover. I was looking through all the books that I had, including books that I've been wanting to read, books that I need to read. This book has been on many a TBR. That is The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. I'm very excited about this book. I have been nervous about it because, for one, I'm not sure how much I like Greek mythology. I'm not sure how much I like Greek mythology retellings. I really haven't read that many, and I've had problems with like the Iliad and some books like that before. Not that I hated it, just that it required a lot more of my mind than I was willing to give at the time. So I'm a little nervous about this because it has been so hyped, because it is so well loved. It's one of those books where I'm like, am I going to enjoy it? But I do need to read it, and I can't wait to read it. I have been looking forward to this book for a long time. So as you can see, the helm on this is a single object. I feel like it works perfectly for this course. And I'm going to start the month off with that, and I'll let you know how it goes. Isaac, what are you doing up on the roof? What's going on up there? Huh? Hey, honey.
There you go. Scott.
Okay, so it took me a little time to get here. It's August 12th, and I finally, well, actually today's the 13th, but last night I finally started The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. This is the first book for my Magical Orilium, my restoration class that I need to take. It's been a crazy couple of weeks. It's been really busy with work, really, really busy. I mean, I've been putting in really long hours, and it's all been physical labor. Like, I'm just, I'm buff now. Like, I'm feeling pretty buff. And it's been good. Like, it's been really good for some reasons, but like this week's busy, last week's busy. I had friends visiting. We did the international scavenger hunt. Then this week is the fair, and my aunt, of course, you've seen her goats. She is a superintendent for the goats, and we tend to like to go help her out with the fair. So today I spent most of the day at the fair. Tomorrow we'll spend a good majority of the day at the fair. And my class is finishing next Friday. And I've been getting all the weekly homework done, but I have not been able to start on my group project yet at all. Luckily, my partner hasn't started on it at all, so I don't feel too bad, but I'd like to get that started tomorrow and get it going this week so that everything is ready for the end of my class, which is coming up. Not much time to spend reading, and definitely no time for content. So, I mean, I know I took a break, and that's kind of where I'm at. I just wanted to kind of get this started so that I felt like I was making some progress towards a Magical Orilium. And I did finish the Book of Life, not in time for our live discussion, but I finished it. So good. So what is this, and how do I feel about it so far? This is a modern retelling of Achilles and Patroclus' story, and I don't know too much about it, but I've heard this story makes everybody cry. It's very impactful. People love it. The writing style is very different than what I've been reading lately. Very, very different. It's a little abrupt, and there's not too much detail into it. The story feels like it moves on from one topic to another really quickly. Like, you establish this character, and this thing has happened to him, this thing has happened to him. And it's not like you're building these long story narratives. It's like, well, kind of how it felt like reading the Iliad, where you move from one thing to the next very quickly because there's so much that has to be covered. And it has to be done in a way that recognizes the things that did happen during that mythology, but also making it feel a little more modern. But still making it feel like you're reading a book that was set, you know, BC something. I don't know when, but does it say? No. It's interesting so far. Like, I'm only 15 pages in, so I really can't tell you what I think about this at the moment. Currently, we have met Patroclus. We have met him as a child, and seeing the influence his father has on his life. His father's pretty icky. He's just a smaller guy, and he doesn't have all the things that people in his positions, princes in his position, are supposed to have. And so I haven't got much further than the first chapters. I don't really know where it goes from here, but at this point, you're kind of made to feel a little sympathetic for this character because his dad's a bully, and his dad has not gotten what he wants from a son, at least at this point, from Patroclus. I'm hoping that I enjoyed it as much as everybody else. The writing style, like I said, it's different. It's something I have to get used to, but I'm not disliking what I've read so far, so that's a good sign. Okay, so I've made quite a bit of progress on Song of Achilles. It's Sunday, and I am loving it. I'm really loving it. The writing style, which I said was pretty abrupt at first, but I felt like it worked really well for mythology. It does, and it's working really well for me now at this point. I love hearing all of this story from Patroclus's point of view, and I feel for him because he's in a losing situation. Like, it's very clear, even from the beginning of this story, it's very clear that he's in a no-win situation, and you can see that, and you can see how painful it's going to be, and I can tell why people get so upset about this, because we've already hit one part in the story where it just brought tears to my eyes because you could feel the pain that he was going through. Don't fall in love with a half-god who's supposed to be the hero of all wars and stuff like that. Just don't do it. It's not a good idea. These stories in mythology tend to be so off the wall and so unbelievable, you know? And I think that Madeline Miller does a pretty good job of making them seem more realistic. Like, and I think that's what makes it feel more modern. It doesn't seem as strange as it would if you were actually hearing this story, say, from your friend telling you a story about his buddy going up to this mountain and he's being trained by a centaur. Even though we don't do a ton of character development, I'm finding myself becoming pretty attached to these characters. And the story moves along at a very good pace. So you are constantly getting the details that are needed to move these mythological stories along because we're very detailed. And yet, it doesn't feel too rushed. My aunt's garden has these enormous lilies in it, and she gave us this stalk yesterday, and they're all starting to open up. It looks so pretty. Good morning. So I'm halfway through the month. It's the 15th today, and I'm still working on my first magical Orilium book. But, you know, granted, I just started it a few days ago. So I am 2/3 of the way through. I've been having a hard time putting it down, so I'm really enjoying Song of Achilles. I noticed that there are elements to this, and I don't know if it's because it's mythology and because that time period was so long ago, it's easy to sort of divorce yourself from the atrocities of it. Because even in this story, there's so many horrible things, especially rape. Like, rape happens so commonly in a society where, you know, there was the raping and pillaging, and you went and it was part of the conquest was to be able to, you know, rape and pillage these areas that you were taking over, and people expected it, and they prepared their kids for it. And there's a part of me that whenever I read mythology, I feel very desensitized to that concept, as horrific as it is. And I don't know why that is, because I'll read a book that's on that subject matter now and it can be very triggering. I don't know if that is specific to mythology or if it's because it's the time period. I know this is a really uncomfortable subject to be talking about, but like, it's something that I notice about reading these kinds of books. Whereas if we were to read them in something else, it would be a completely different experience. And I just think that's a little strange. That being said, I am enjoying everything. I'm enjoying Patroclus even more because I'm seeing him as a character, what he values. And I think that that is something that is important to point out at a time period when people only valued honor, they valued victory, they valued fame. And Patroclus is like this guy who actually values humans, and he values the things that weren't necessarily valued at that time. And so it's nice to see his humanity. Achilles is the focus of this. We're looking at Achilles as being this amazing hero, and Achilles is this very innocent in a lot of ways and naive personality. And so you don't get as much of Patroclus' personality all throughout the story, but I feel like 2/3 of the way in, all of a sudden you're understanding more what he's about. And I kind of like that because it makes it so I'm enjoying this character even more. Like, it's nice to have him as the narrator. I've been enjoying his view of Achilles the whole way through, but it has been really nice right now just to get to know more about him as an individual. And with this caring for him more as an individual, I can see that the impact is going to be a whole lot huger. So, greater. Okay, so it is still the 15th, and I have finished Song of Achilles because I couldn't put it down. I'm saving that review for another video, but spoiler alert, I loved it. So it feels good getting that particular class done for restoration. I am feeling pretty strong in my power of restoring objects. Now, I went ahead and spun my wheel again. I'm going to be focusing on demonology. So I will be wrangling imps. And with my wrangling imps, I'm going to be reading a fantasy. So for that, I decided to go with a book that I need to read because hopefully soon, Christine and I are going to have a discussion about the Voyage of the Dawn Treader and the Silver Chair, which are the next two books in our Narnia read-along. So I decided, well, this is just the main book, but I've decided that I'm going to read Silver Chair for this because I need to get it finished. Because these were supposed to be done last month, and, you know, I've been behind because of life. I'm excited to see which kids come up in Silver Chair, who I'm going to be meeting in this one, because, well, I don't want to give any spoilers away about Voyage of the Dawn Treader, but I feel like we're going to have a change of characters at some point soon. It is a fantasy. It's, you know, classic middle grade fantasy, so I think it works perfectly for this. I don't think there's imps in these stories. It works either way. I'll be wrangling some imps, and I will get back to you once I have a bit of an update on Silver Chair. Okay, so today is the 19th. I have started Silver Chair finally. I started it last night, and I don't know, I'm struggling to want to read this week. This week in particular, like, I was doing really well last week. I got a lot read. Every time I stopped, I wanted to pick up a book, and this week I'm watching alone. I'm not usually a TV person, but I just needed a break. Like, even watching booktube videos has just gotten tedious this week for me. Not that anybody has tedious content. It's more my brain needs a break is what it is. And so, and it's not even like I'm using my brain much. Well, this week I am using it a lot for lesson plans that I'm preparing for this big group project, which is done today. I'm not done, but I'm like doing homework, taking a break, doing homework, taking a break, so because it's boring. I'm getting through this big project, thank goodness, and it's all due today, so it has to get done today. And then I have a quiz that's more like an essay that I have to write that's due today as well. And then that class will be completely over. So I'm really just taking breaks to watch alone for a little bit, and then I go back and write. And then I go back and watch alone, and then I go back and write. And so I will get my schoolwork done. But yeah, the reading has been hard this week. It's been really hard this week just because I'm just not in the mood. I'm not going to push myself too hard. I'm going to get this class done today. And then I'm going to enjoy my weekend and do whatever I feel like doing for this weekend. I have a few things that have to get done. And we're going to go see Pat Benatar tomorrow night in concert because the fair, it's the last night of the fair, and she's performing tomorrow night. So we're all going. My mom, my aunt, their cousin, who's my cousin, like my second or third cousin. And life will be good. It's actually kind of hot today. Like, it's weird summery weather here I live out near the ocean, so like where I live, it doesn't always get that warm. So when it's hot over here, it's kind of strange, which means that it's way hotter inland. As far as Silverchair goes, okay, yeah, back to... I'm enjoying it from the perspective that we are coming back to a character that we know we met in the last book, Voyage of the Dawn Treader, and we're meeting a new character, and that's always fun, getting to meet new characters and kind of see what this journey is all about, because it seems like every time they go to Narnia, they're on a new journey. And, you know, C.S. Lewis writes in a way that is very easy to get into, very kid-friendly, but at the same time, there's nothing in any of these stories that has made me not be able to put the stories down or the book down. And it could be that it's middle grade fantasy, it's older middle grade fantasy, which I have not had great experience with in the past. I've given the first few books really, you know, decent ratings because they are good. But nothing about this series makes it so I can't put the book down. So sometimes that makes it hard to pick it back up again when I would rather be watching alone. But Christine and I are hoping to have our live show discussion this Sunday. So I need to get Silverchair done. So I have a certain number of pages I want to read a day. Fingers crossed I get my reading for the day done. Because, yeah, we'll see. But I just want to give you a bit of an update. And so far it's going well. I'm about 17 pages in, so I'm not very far in at all. And it's just learning to see where Eustace and this other new character we've met are going, what they're doing, what their ultimate journey is to find the lost prince, and see how that goes. I did it! I finished! Woohoo! I'm done! My summer course is done, and everything's turned in. So it's as good as it's gonna get. All the flowers opened! Your mom's people. Beautiful. Okay, so we just got back from seeing Pat Benatar, and she was incredible. She was incredible. She's 69 years old. 69 years old. Her and her husband are celebrating their 43rd year of creating music together, and their 40th year being married. So like they started making music together 43 years ago, and then they got married 40 years ago, and they've been together ever since, and they've been making music. I don't know if they've been continuously making music ever since, but it kind of sounds like they have been. She's a true rock star. So if you haven't heard Pat Benatar at all, there's some really famous songs that she's well known for, and I would go check her out. And the way she sounds is exactly how she sounded tonight. You know, she's a rock star, so she sings pretty hard sometimes, and she does some pretty high-pitched yells and high-pitched, you know, she's got a pretty high falsetto, and she hit everything. She really did, and she didn't lose her voice. She just sounded fantastic. She didn't lose the control, like, you know, her voice wasn't getting too tired where she was losing control. I was just like, I was so impressed. Like, I want to be her when I am 69 years old, because she looked amazing. She sounded amazing, and that woman is living a life. She is living a life. So that was really cool. And then on the way there and on the way back, I listened to Silverchair because tomorrow is the live show, so I need to get that done. And I am enjoying it. And there have been parts where I'm getting more interested in this particular one. I am liking the sections with the giants. I think it's interesting. These aren't my favorite main characters of the Narnia series so far. So we've got Eustace and we've got Jill Pole or Julie Pole. I can't remember now. I mean, I'm reading it and I can't remember her name at the moment. It seems to be a theme for C.S. Lewis that he makes at least one, if not more than one of his kids disrespectful and kind of rude and think they know everything and misbehave really badly in the beginning, and then they learn their lesson and they feel sorry for the way they behaved and they turn a leaf, they become a new child. Like, that seems very formulaic in these Narnia stories, which isn't terrible. It's good for moralistic reasons. It's a good thing for children to learn that, you don't necessarily know everything. You need to listen to people when they give advice and da-da-da-da. But these particular kids are just annoying. Like, they're irritating, and I don't like them well enough, even once they've made their, like, oh, we shouldn't have done that, we're so sorry, because, they're going to do that. And I'm not as excited about these two kids as much, where I'm loving their roles in the story. Like, I'm finding some of the actual plot lines very interesting, more so than maybe some of the other books. I don't have any attachment to these two kids, Eustace and whatever her name is, Pole. Julie Pole, Jill Pole, whatever her name is. I do like Puddleglum a lot. I feel bad for him because he's dealing with these two kids. He's like their guide and adult figure, and yet we don't care what you think. We're going to do whatever we want. And that is a big part of what made me irritated. And granted, children go through phases. They do things. They can be disrespectful. They need to learn lessons. Like, I get all that. And, I'm going to be working with kids, so I get all that. It's just that these ones in particular are just not quite as interesting to me as, say, some of the kids from the other books. Sorry, I'm a little congested, so if I sound I'm a little congested. Other than that, I'm having fun. I'm over halfway through, and I just need to get it done. So we'll see how it goes. I'm hopefully, now that we're really getting into the adventure quite a bit, and the kids have maybe seen the error of their ways, then they'll grow on me a little more. We'll see. Otherwise, they won't, and that's okay. I know a lot of people that are loving this series, loving Narnia. I'm just curious, people who haven't read Narnia as children, like when you were younger or any other part in your life, and you pick them up as an adult now, are you loving them as much reading them for the first time now as people who maybe have that same level of nostalgia? I mean, obviously you won't know in comparison, but let me know in the comment section down below if you've picked up Narnia for the first time now as an adult and you just absolutely love it and you never read it as a kid, because I don't know. Maybe it's just a me thing. It probably is just a me thing. There's a lot of things that are just me things, so I'm rambling now. Anyways, I'm going to go to bed, and tomorrow I'm going to finish The Silver Chair, and I will check in with you when it's time to pick my next magical readathon book. So anyways, I am enjoying Silver Chair. Don't think that I'm not. I'm enjoying it. I'm less than impressed with these two particular kids. Okay, so I finished The Silver Chair with about half an hour left before the live show discussion. So at least I got it finished, even though I was kind of close. I'm not really feeling like reading too much right now. I've just been kind of relaxing now that school's over. My brain is like, oh, it's over, and I can relax. So I've been doing a bit of watching TV, and then yesterday we were out all day. We weren't home the whole day, so that was kind of nice, just to have a bit of a break from the house and doing schoolwork, and just, it's nice to get out and feel like comfortable not having any plan. I know I was complaining a lot about these two characters, Eustace and Jill. Jill's her name. And I still don't think they're my favorite of the main kid characters, but I really liked the plot of this story. Like, this is my favorite plot. Maybe I like Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe itself a little bit more, but honestly, really liked the plot of Silverchair a lot, and it really turns about halfway through to where I really enjoyed the plot of this one. So, like, I don't know that I would say this is my favorite, but this was the one that was surprisingly most entertaining for me, at least when it came to the halfway mark. It did take me a while to get through it, just because, like I said, with all these books, I'm not as, like, in a hurry to get through them, but I was happy with the way this one turned out, quite happy with the way this one turned out. So I enjoyed it. I'm probably going to give it 4 stars. I've been giving most of these 4 stars because I feel like for the kind of story they are, for what I'm getting from them being middle grade classic fantasies, I am enjoying them a lot. Okay, so now it is time to pick my next choice for the Magical Orilium, and I'm excited to see what this is because, you know, it feels good to just keep moving along. So I'm going to spin that here, and as you can see, I got a book with necromancy themes, which I'm really excited about. This is Conjuration. So for Conjuration, I actually need to get a D. So this is the course that I will be spending the most time in during Magical Orilium Autumn Equinox. To get an O in this is Foundations of Necromancy. So for this, I need to read a book that has necromancy themes. I've got 2 things I'm going to read for this, actually. So this sounds funny because, you know, I really only should have 1 book that I need to read for this, but I have Tokyo Ghoul Volume 3, and I have been waiting for this one to come from the library for a very long time, and since it's come, somebody else has put it on hold. The second I got this, it was already 3 people on hold waiting for it. So hello, library, you need to get more copies of this series. It is already past due at this point because I just haven't been reading as much and as quickly as I've been wanting to, so I need to get this one done so I can return it tomorrow when I go pick up all my other library books, and therefore the next person can get this. Now, Tokyo Ghoul, there's no obvious sense in this one that there is necromancy. Now, when you think about ghouls and you think about zombies, typically you do think that there's some form of necromancy that at some point in time has had some influence on it. But I don't know that for sure, you know, within this story, what I've learned so far from this story. I don't know that for sure. So I'm going to read this because I need to read it anyways and return it, and it'll be a very quick read. My actual choice for this one, because I'm pretty sure it has necromancy themes, is Clockwork Angel, which is the first book in the Infernal Devices series by Cassandra Clare. I wanted to read this one last month. It didn't happen, and it's time that I get to it this month. So I read this one in the past. It's a reread for me. I remember loving the series. I think giving all books in this series 4 stars when I first read it. That was way before I was doing BookTube or rating things in ways that I rate them now. So we'll see how I feel about it on a reread. Okay, so I have finished Tokyo Ghoul, Volume 3. I will say that with this series in particular, because they go so quickly, it is a bit of a bummer if you can't read the next one right away. But like with the library, the Volume 3, I think somebody had checked it out a long time ago and then never returned it, so they didn't have any volumes for a while. So they finally did restock. Thank goodness, because I got to read Volume 3, and I enjoyed this one the best of all the 3 I've read so far. This is my favorite. I'm going to give it 4 stars because Volume 1 I gave 3.75, Volume 2 I gave 3 stars, and this one was the most enjoyable. It had a lot of action. I think it moved the story along the most so far, and there was some issues with what happened to one of the characters that I was like, wait a minute, I still have a lot of questions about this character, and I feel like there should be a lot more involving this particular character. So there's some things that I'm like, this seems really unfinished, and that sometimes feels the case when it comes to manga, is you don't always get all the answers, of course, in each episode, and sometimes it's hard to tell if you're going to get more answers or if they're just going to move the story along and move away from certain characters or aspects of the story. And so that always makes these feel more choppy to me when I read them. I mean, I haven't read that many, but of what I've read, that feels like that's an element that you have to get used to when it comes to manga. So I enjoyed this. I actually really enjoyed this one, and I'm looking forward to the next one. I wasn't sure if I was going to want to continue on this series because I've been feeling sort of and it's been a little hard to get a hold of them because they're pretty popular at my library, and then, you know, there's always holds on them. And when there aren't holds on them, of course, people are keeping them and the library has to reorder them, so I have to wait for them for a long time. So I will continue this series, and I'm really glad that I enjoyed volume 3 so well, because I wasn't sure. It's a strange series. It's a really strange series, and it is a bit morbid. There's some aspects of the art that I wish were a little clearer, because there's sometimes when I have to really pay attention to the picture, because the action scenes are not quite clear what exactly is going on. It just takes a little longer for me to, oh, okay, I see what happened. As far as Clockwork Angel goes, it's kind of hard to get a hold of. Like on Kindle, it's $11. So I was like, I don't know about that. Then we went to our favorite used bookstore today to see if they had it, and they didn't. So it is at the library. It's at one of the libraries that I would have to drive to get it, because if I ask them to send it to me, then it'll take a few days. I've got to go to the library anyways and drop Tokyo Ghoul off and pick up some other books, so then I'll just wander over to the other library further north and see if I can get Clockwork Angel, because I would like to read that. Did I say Clockwork Orange earlier? I think I said Clockwork Angel. But yeah, I would like to reread that series, and it does have necromancer vibes to it. I think that there's bad guys or something in this story that are necromancers. I don't know if that's spoilery, but I was looking specifically for books that have necromancers, and I wanted to make sure that Clockwork Angel did. I have read that series before, but it's been so long ago that I don't remember all the details. So I'm looking forward to finding out. Okay, I had to drive all the way to this little town called Blaine, but I picked up Clockwork Angel, and while we're here, we're gonna get some fish and chips. Yummy, yummy. Okay, so I have started Clockwork Angel, and I'm only 36 pages in, but I wanted to quickly get on here and tell you some of my initial thoughts, and then talk about the necromancy part of it. So, initial thoughts? This is a reread for me, and I don't remember much. So that's interesting. It's probably a good thing, because then I can just enjoy this series like new. And so far, it's somewhat interesting. It's always kind of hard for me getting into the book at a new series, especially at the very beginning. It just takes me a little bit of time. 36 pages in is not a good place for me to stop and really give you my thoughts on a book. But I want to talk a little bit about the necromancy elements to this, because that's kind of the whole reason I picked up this book for this prompt in Magical Orilium. So in the very beginning, we meet this girl named Tessa, teenager, like 17, 18 years old, and she's on her way to London to meet her brother Nate. She's from the US, and her aunt has died, so she's going to go live with her brother, who is in the UK. She gets picked up by these two women called the Dark Sisters. She has a letter from her brother that they've given to her that says, hey, I trust these women, go with them. Well, they imprison her. Apparently they're holding her brother hostage. Apparently, we haven't seen or heard from him yet, but she's kind of going along with all the things they're telling her to do because she wants to keep her brother safe. So these women have been forcing her to do all these strange things, take potions, practice this form of magic that's been hurting her. And what they're training her to do is to change. And this is where the necromancy comes in, because if she holds a piece of clothing or an object that belonged to a person who died, she can change into that person temporarily. So she actually becomes them physically, and she has all their memories because of Tessa's talent, and we don't know yet what that talent is, what that talent means, but for some reason that talent is unique and special and allows her to channel the dead. And that's what we know about Tessa so far, is that she's being used in a situation for necromancy. Now, we've also met some shadow hunters, and we know they're shadow hunters if you've read the Mortal Instrument series, because this whole shadow hunter world is all about shadow hunters. And so we've met Will Herondale, and we've met this guy named Jem. And honestly, I kind of remember these people a little bit, but really not much. So I'm going to keep plugging away at this and see what happens. See if I enjoy it. And I'll get back to you when I have a little more, actually a little more read. I just wanted to let you kind of know where some of the necromancy theme comes in and say that it works. It works. I'm counting it. Also, there's another element of this that is necromancy, which I don't really want to talk about too much because I don't know if it's spoilery or not. And I don't necessarily know all the details of it yet, but it has something to do with steampunk, because this is a steampunk novel. It's set in the 1800s. The Clockwork Angel, we learn right away, is this little pendant that Tessa has around her neck, and it ticks. Even though there's no way to wind it up, it just continuously ticks. And so there is a lot of clockwork elements in this. And one of the necromancy elements that the Dark Sisters have, I don't know if it has anything to do with Tessa. I don't think so. I think it just has to do with what the Dark Sisters do with their powers of necromancy, or whatever they're doing with necromancy has a lot to do with the steampunk element, which is kind of cool. So that's fun. You know, the action is taking off. This is a very action-packed so far, and as most of Cassandra Clare's books tend to be, she tends to have a lot of action in them. Getting to know Will, he's a bit full of himself, which I think Cassandra Clare likes to make her male characters like that anyways. We haven't really got to know Tessa's personality yet, so we'll see how Tessa is as we go along. But so far, it's going good. Okay, friends, I got a brand new pillow today because my old pillows were a million years old and horrible. And look how wonderful this is. And now I won't wake up with my ear cartilage hurting every morning because I have a nice soft, look at that soft pillow. So it is, what is it? It's the 24th. It's the 24th. So it's the 24th, and what have I been up to? So I'm currently reading Clockwork Angel. That is my necromancy book that I'm in the process of reading. I'm about 107 or 8 pages through that one. So the first few chapters, I was having a hard time getting into it. I think I just wasn't in the mood for reading the day that I picked it up. But then yesterday, all of a sudden, I was like, ooh, okay, I'm hooked. I'm in this. And, you know, granted, I've read this before, but I'm thoroughly into it now. And so I'm excited to continue reading that. I'm still pretty early on, so I can't give you too much information, except that we have met our key players. We've met Tessa, who's a shape changer of some sort. We still don't know what sort she is. And then we've met our 2 main Shadowhunter males, which I think, if I remember correctly, there's going to be a love triangle. So you've got Will and you've got Jem. And I can't wait to see how this goes. I was watching Martine from Just Martine's reading vlog for Squash That Series, because I just put mine out as well. And she was reading Clockwork Princess, and I was just like, yes, that's the end of those series. So she's been just kind of plodding along, whereas I'm just starting the first one. But it just got me really excited. So I'm like, now I'm ready to read. I'm ready to read, which is good, because last night I ended up, I guess I got a bug up my butt, because I was like, I'm ready to edit. And then I started editing my Squash That Series vlog, which I wasn't sure whether or not I was going to put that one out. And then I just kept editing and editing and editing. And then it was 2 a.m. and I was like, you know what, Amy? Go to bed. Because I'd started rendering it from my editing software and it was just taking forever. So I'm like, nope, time to go to bed. 2 a.m. And this morning I started working on my September TBR. So I filmed that. It took a long time. Sometimes I'm in the mood to film and sometimes I'm not. But considering how the next couple of days are going to go, I knew I wouldn't have any other time to film. So I was like, this is the time to do it. And then this afternoon I went with my cousin Jenny kayaking, because she's a teacher. So she starts school on Friday, and she was kind of waiting for me to get done with work, like the majority of the work project and school stuff, so we could hang out before she has to go back to work, go back to school. And this is it. She starts Friday. So we had a wonderful time kayaking, spending time together. I love my cousin Jenny. I love spending time with her. And we live, 30 minutes away from each other, but it just doesn't happen as often as we'd like it to. So I got home and Mom's watching Miss Congeniality, and I'm like, oh, I kind of want to watch that. So after that's over, I'll get back into Clockwork Angel and hopefully start working on editing my September TBR tomorrow. I have fingers crossed that that's going to go pretty quickly. My sleep schedule's getting kind of off, so I'm hoping that I don't keep doing 2 a.m. because I've done 2 a.m. for the last 2 nights in a row, and that's not good. I don't want to be on that kind of a sleep schedule. Okay, so I can't remember how much I've actually given you as far as synopsis of this, So far, we have Tessa, who is, as I said, a shape changer, and she had been kidnapped by the Dark Sisters, who were trying to use her to marry her off to somebody who we don't know who that is yet. Well, starting to know, but I'm not going to give that away. But Will, one of the shadow hunters, the young shadow hunters, had saved her because he was on this case trying to find out about all these young, really young girls who had been murdered around London. And it all came back to the Dark Sisters. So he was there at the place trying to find out more about the Dark Sisters, and he found Tessa. Now they're trying to get more information about, one, who the guy is that they were trying to marry Tessa off to, but then two, they're trying to help Tessa find her brother, because the whole reason she cooperated with the Dark Sisters was because she thought that they were holding her brother hostage. So the Shadow Hunters are in this process of trying to find out more information. They're trying to find out more information about where Nathaniel's whereabouts are. And then, of course, this Pandemonium Club, which is this club of humans that would like to be magicians that was somehow affiliated with the Dark Sisters. Like, how does that factor into all this? And how dangerous is this group? And what kind of things are they getting into? And the steampunk element comes in pretty heavily because the Dark Sisters were actually using Clockworks in some of their experiments on people. And so I don't want to go into more depth about it. I don't know that much more about it, but I do know that that's what they were doing. So as far as how I'm feeling about it, I'm liking the characters. I like the characters in this. At this point, I like them more than the characters in Mortal Instruments. I definitely like Tessa more than I like Clary. Just, Clary was so hard-headed. Like, that drove me nuts. Will is obnoxious, but I really like Jem. And I remember from the first time reading this that I liked Jem a lot. And I can't remember if I liked Will as well. But one thing that's fun about reading this, after having just read the first 3 books in the Mortal Instruments series, is so far I've found one little tie-in, one thing that ties back to the first book. And it's about this invention that Henry is creating. There's Tessa, there's the 2 young male shadow hunters, and then a young female shadow hunter, Jessamine. So Will, Jem, and Jessamine. And they're all being taken care of by Charlotte and Henry. So Charlotte and Henry are married, and they're running the Institute. And they don't have any kids of their own, but these are the 3 wards they have, let's put it that way. And so Henry is in the process of inventing something that we see used in the Mortal Instruments series. So it's a lot of fun to see that little tie-in. And I'm hoping that we'll see more as I go along, like through this series, kind of touch back to some of the Mortal Instruments elements, you know, some of the things, maybe some of the people. I already recognize some of the surnames, like the people's surnames in this, as being some of the people that we not necessarily meet in Mortal Instruments, but that we hear about in Mortal Instruments. So yeah, just kind of moving along. I'm on page 154. I've been, it's a quick read, just like any Cassandra Clare book is, but I have finally got back into the process of making videos and making content, and so editing is a time-consuming thing, and I'm currently working on my TBR videos. So like after editing my vlog for Squash That series and now working on my TBR video, it's taking away from the reading. It's funny because I've read so much more now that I've become a booktuber, but a big portion of booktube is actually creating content. And so you don't read as much as you might without booktube, but at the same time, before booktube, I never read this much. So like, I'm still reading more. But yeah, now that I'm back to making content, I'm not quite reading as much. So it's a pretty big book. I don't know when I'll be able to get to my next magical Orilium prompt, but I'm just going to keep chugging away. And then tomorrow night we have reading sprints. So hopefully for that, I will be reading this. We would be reading the Mortal Instruments book, City of Fallen Angels, but because I'm working on this right now, I'll be reading that one. Okay, so we got these pumpkin spice hot cocoa bombs made with milk chocolate and marshmallows, which we haven't ever tried as cocoa bombs. We hate them as chocolate, but we're gonna give it a go and see how it turns out as a cocoa bomb. We have this cute little Mickey mug that has all these versions of Mickey on it. And so that's the one Mom's going to use. And then my cousin recently bought me this mug, which says Bookworm, which is me. It tastes milky, but it's got definitely has a bit of the pumpkin flavor, and it's sweet. I think a lot of my chocolate's sitting at the bottom though, so I need to get a spoon and stir it, but it's tasty. Good morning, it's Sunday, and I am 3/4 of the way into Clockwork Angel. I really would like to get that one finished today because I want to keep going, and it's close to the end of the month. I've got like 4 days left. I want to get some books read. It feels good to be getting that one done because like it's almost 500 pages, so it's a long book, and you know, I'm a slow reader, so or medium pace reader. I'm excited to get that one done. I'm enjoying it. I'm really enjoying it, and gosh, I feel for Jem. We just found out his situation. Tessa's getting more involved with the shadow hunters and kind of trying to learn more about herself because there's something unique about her that she doesn't even know, and nobody else knows what it is either. There's this silent brother who we meet the silent brothers in the first series in Mortal Instruments, and they're kind of like the healers / intellectuals of shadow hunters. Brother Enoch, which I feel like, didn't we meet Brother Enoch in the other one? He doesn't know what's up with Tessa, so we're trying to figure out what's going on with Tessa. And we've had a couple of battles. They were very exciting. Tessa's very attracted to Will, and she's just feelings for Will, but Will's got a lot of things that are hidden, that are secretive, that he's holding back on. So like, and that's true with every relationship that he has, he holds back. I guess what I do like about Cassandra Clare is the pace. The pace of her books tend to be really quick and fun and really interesting ideas. I do like the setting of this, especially because we have that steampunk Victorian setting. I should read more steampunk types of books because I do find that to be a very entertaining period. The Victorian era was not entertaining for people who lived in it at the time because of all the restrictions and all the different ideals that people had, and yet then of course how they fought against those ideals in their private lives. But it's still an interesting concept, and then of course the clockwork element to it being a big part of the magic system in this one, I think is fascinating. Okay, so it is the 29th? Yeah, the 29th of August, and I have finished another book. I have finished The Clockwork Angel by Cassandra Clare, this chunker, 479 pages. I have read quite a bit this month, and several of the books have been pretty long ones, so I'm feeling pretty good. Like, I got a lot read this month. And so then when I originally read this book, I gave it 4 stars, and I agree with my rating that I gave it back then. It's a solid 4 stars. I think of all the Cassandra Clare books I've read so far, City of Glass was my favorite. I gave that one 4.5 stars, and I still feel that I do like that particular book more than this one now. This is great. I love the setting. I really do like that steampunk feel to it. One of the things I was noticing about this series is that although I like the characters better, meaning that they're a lot less annoying than Clary and Jace and all those other people, I felt that the chemistry was better in Mortal Instruments, which is awkward, right? Because of, if you read this series, you understand why that would be awkward. Not just the chemistry in the sense of sexual tension and things like that, but just the way they came together as a friend group felt a little stronger in Mortal Instruments than it feels so far in this series. Now, I'm sure that maybe it'll change within the next 2 books, and I am looking forward to continuing on this series. But before I continue on with Clockwork Prince, I think is the next one, I will read City of Fallen Angels, which is our next book for Bookstar Read-Alongs. And the way that Cassandra Clare published these is she published the first 3 books for Mortal Instruments, then she published Clockwork Angel, and then I think she did City of Fallen Angels. And I think, at least Paige and I are going back and forth because I think that was recommended, was to read one from this series, one from that series, one from this series. So I won't be getting to the next one in this series until after I've finished City of Fallen Angels. I'm looking forward to what happens next. Nothing has been resolved, and there's a lot that's going to happen here. So these are maybe not the most detailed accounts, and definitely these are YA, so you get a more simplistic nature to the writing. When you're looking for some kind of fun read, these are enjoyable. They're quick to get into. They have a lot of action. You don't have to think too much, you just can enjoy the ride. Okay, so now it's time to pick my next magical Orilium prompt. And for this one, I spun my spinner wheel. And as you will see, I ended up getting familiar or other animal companion. That is actually for animal studies. I'm going to be taking animal studies now that I have finished O for conjuration. I need to study familiars. So to study familiars, I'm going to be reading a book that has familiars in it. So I started Reflection by Elizabeth Lim. This is a Disney Twisted Tale a while ago. I need to read this book. It's another one of those books I have been wanting to get to for a while because I have a special video that I'm putting it in. So what's this about? Well, this is a retelling of the Disney movie Mulan. In Mulan, she ends up taking the place of her father to go off to war against the Mongolians, the Huns. And she dresses up as a boy and she joins this regiment. And in the regiment, the head of the regiment, I don't remember if he's like a captain or what have you, Li Shang ends up being her love interest. And he's also the one who's teaching them how to fight and teaching them how to be warriors. Well, there's this really big pivotal scene in the movie, and it goes differently in this book. Everything ends up the same except for that Li Shang dies. And she feels really guilty about Li Shang dying. She feels like this is her fault, and she wants to try and right this wrong. So she goes down to Diyu, the underworld, to talk to King Yama and try and get Li Shang back to life. Well, the familiar or companion that goes with her is Shang's actual lion guardian. So normally in Mulan, the movie, you've got Mulan's family guardian, which is a little teeny dragon named Mushu, and then Cricket, which is this lucky cricket. They're the comic reliefs, but they're also her companions. They go around with her. Well, in this, they have to stay behind, and she takes Shang's lion guardian companion. And so we're getting to know this, like, companion that's very full of himself, and he's very funny in his own right. Mulan comes up to King Yama and he says, okay, you can have Shang back if you can get him out of Diyu before a certain length of time. I can't remember what it was. And so she has to kind of traipse all over Diyu, this underworld, to try and find Li Shang and try and save him. And we'll see what happens. I don't know. I think this will be a fun one. And I think it'll help me to better understand familiars so that I, as a necromancer, can use familiars to help with my magic when I need to. Good morning. It is the 30th. It's the 30th of August. Can you believe it? I cannot. So I did pick up Reflection a little bit last night. By a little bit, I mean I read a chapter. And it's a chapter that I've already read before. So I was exhausted. I ended up going to sleep right after that and have not gotten very far. What I wanted to say is that I'm going to be closing out this vlog here because it probably already has plenty of content. I want to make sure that these aren't too long because, you know, I'm really good at making very long videos, but also I need to kind of move forward to the next portion of the week and what's going to be happening next. But I am going to be continuing this magical Orilium adventure because, as you know, I'm not sticking with the rules. I'm not doing it within the month of August. I still have some spring equinox classes that I have to take. So I'm going to be doing that. But I'm having a really good time doing the spinner wheel and picking my classes based off that. It's working for me. And right now, I'm really trying to put my own enjoyment and well-being at the forefront, you know, because I took a break, which was great. But I also have less than a month left until school starts again. So I'm trying to keep things light and easy and fun and just doing the things that feel good. So these vlogs feel really good, and picking my magical Orilium books and just kind of reading one at a time feels fantastic. So we'll be continuing on and making this like a multiple part vlog. I hope you continue to enjoy this process because it's fun for me. So as far as Sunday sum ups go, because I know it, myself included, there's a lot of fans of the Sunday sum up out here. It's not going to come back quite yet. I have friends visiting. They're coming actually tomorrow, and they'll be staying until the 7th of September. And so I don't really want to push myself with anything until after they've left and I can kind of get my life in order. And also I have a lot of books that I've read actually since the time that I've been on AWOL, and I got to do like some rapid fire reviews so that I catch up with that stack of books, which, you know, I did a pretty good job reading recently, so it's a good size. I'm just not looking forward to that. But I will come back to my Sunday sum ups. They will be back, and it will be in a few weeks, so don't worry, they're coming back. So we'll be closing out this vlog here, and if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, and stay tuned and subscribe if you want to see what happens with the rest of my magical Orilium adventure. I hope that it goes smoothly, and then I continue on, because sometimes I fall off and I don't do things that I'm planning on doing. But I have to finish this because my necromancer character wants to become a full necromancer. So I will get everything completed. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you later. Bye.